People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, and I hope you're all well and safe, or doing well and safe. Yeah, I've had my breakfast. At this time, I really should have checked my face. Hopefully there's nothing on my face. But good morning, like I said, whoever you are, wherever you are. Let's get straight into it. Don't want to go over the whole shenanigans, or shenanigans ain't even the right word, but you lot know there's been a lot of going and forth in relation to Arsenal and agreeing wage cuts, deferral of wages, you know, different sort of things in that regard. And a lot of clubs are doing it. I'd say big up Man United, because they're saying they're not doing that, you know. Obviously, United are in a healthier position than us and many clubs, but they have to make changes, but they're not messing around with wages at all levels as yet. I believe Arsenal, Southampton, I could be wrong, Arsenal, Southampton, Watford, I might be wrong about Bournemouth, and I believe before I started this, Chelsea allegedly were the latest club to kind of agree some sort of package in relation to the players' wages. Obviously, everybody in society is taking a pay cut, myself included, or lost jobs, myself included. But a lot has been made of Mesut Ozil's time at Arsenal, and you've heard that allegedly Mesut Ozil is one of 3 players, 2 other are unnamed, that I won't say refuse to take pay cuts, currently have not got an agreement with the club in relation to taking a pay cut or deferring wages. And I think stuff like this is where you really have to look at it with an open mind, really and truly. Before I've even finished what I've had to say or get into it, you've all made up your minds over Mesut Ozil, his wages, footballers and wages, and etc. And that's on you. But I think you've got to look at it with an open mind. I do think, you know, there needs to be, journalists are always going to try and get the exclusive scoop, and who knows if there's any truth in this or if there is any players that haven't. But they need to have some integrity, because you can already imagine the witch hunt that is going to come to Mesut Ozil. A lot is made of Mesut Ozil's time at Arsenal. A lot is made of footballers' wages in general. A lot is made of Mesut Ozil's wages at Arsenal. So when you hear, you know, not that his performance should have any relevance right now to what's going on in society, people are going to use this to fuel the agenda. It's almost fuel to the fire, in that he's a money grabber, he's not deserving of wages, footballers are selfish, etc. Mesut Ozil is fully right to not. Listen, it would have been nice if he agreed to do what the other players are doing, but we don't know his reasons. We'll get into a bit of it, but we don't know his reasons. He's fully in the right in to reject it if he doesn't believe that it makes sense, or if he doesn't feel he's been advised enough. The PFA has actually advised all of them to not take cuts. Obviously, you've previously heard Mesut Ozil's agent speaking about this in general, and more or less summed it up is that it's too early to act. So maybe he's acting on guidance of his counsel of the agent. So you can't really begrudge him. He's entitled to reject it. I still maintain what I believe, regardless of who taking pay cuts or whatever. Stan Kroenke, a billionaire in his own right, should be able to save his employees. We've heard he's injecting cash and whatnot. We'll never know what the true extent of that is. But yeah, man. And if these rumours aren't right, then John Cross and all these other people have to look at themselves. But apparently Mesut Ozil has refused to join Arsenal's players in taking a 12.5 pay cut. Ozil has made it clear he may be willing to do so in the future, but wanted to see the full financial impact of the coronavirus and did not want to rush into a decision. Ozil, it is understood, is open to accepting a deferral worth more than the 12.5 pay cut his teammates have taken. The PFA have advised players against taking cuts. So before I've said what I've had to say, you've made up your opinions on Ozil and his wages. So I'm not trying to speak to non-believers or convince anyone. To be fair with you, it's not my money, it's not my business. I don't really care. I'm just making the vid. I don't really care what you think, in the nicest possible way, as long as you just think. As long as you've made if you think Ozil's a money grabber, but you've seen all sides of this, cool. If you think Ozil's in the right, cool. I don't think there's any rights and wrongs. I would have liked Ozil to make a cut. I don't feel this will cause bust-ups in the dressing room and things, but there is also that sort of element you have to consider. And I think Ozil, considering his age, considering, you know, away from being a footballer, you know, he's a businessman. He's got business I believe he's got businesses in Turkey. He's got business in DC. You know, he's got his thing with Flamini. I believe there's an ex-Arsenal medical staff that him, Aaron Ramsey and Petr Cech have all, you know, become investors investors of a certain company. So he's thinking of, we don't know, again, his primary source of income is being a footballer. That's what's allowed him to earn sponsorships and things. Again, he's a footballer, so I think he's cool with, but you don't know how much his other ventures or his other plans are being affected because of the lack of cash flow or these potential cash flows and things. Do you get it? We don't really know how many bonuses and all these things Ozil has in his deal. So again, he needs to think about this. And again, if he doesn't feel he fully comprehends, or his council fully doesn't believe they fully comprehend the implications of saying yes to these things or no, then you have to sit on your hands, people. For what it's worth, again, Ozil's in, again, oh, listen, people got to look at things. People look at footballers as money, as society, as money grabbers in society, and it's not always the highly skilled or the most paid. But you've got to look at the value. Mesut Ozil, like a number of these footballers, are worldwide superstars playing in the Prem. That's the value they give to the world. So they're in this position, people. But despite that, Ozil doesn't strike me as someone that's greedy. Of course, we want to be financially free. This is Mesut Ozil, who gave up his 2014 World Cup earnings to fund surgery for 23 people. This is someone that's funded surgery out of his own pocket for 1,000 people recently. The Big Shoe initiative. There's many different initiatives Ozil pays out of his own pocket. Now, many cynics will say, oh, well, you get tax relief. There's no pleasing some people. You've got to, this is where I said you've got to look at things with all eyes, because you can call Ozil this, that and the other, but again, and it's not, charity isn't a competition. Whatever you say about Mesut Ozil, the footballer, look at that Arsenal side, and who does more for charity than him? At least public knowledge. If there could only be one max. Do you get it? So he has not. I don't think Ozil's selfish. I don't think he has an issue deferring wages or giving up to society away from this, people. Like you see several times. Again, it's not really the same, but he's always giving up his Arsenal box for people, and he's in particular helping children that are sadly suffering from illness or in war-torn countries and things. You see what he's done, helping set up football teams and things. So Ozil has no issue doing things with society. So that's not the case, people. What I don't want this to turn into, sadly, is a witch hunt, because again, let's cut the crap. If I'm not saying you have an agenda if you don't agree with what Ozil's doing, but we all know, whether you believe he should take a cut or not, we all know he's a player that polarizes opinion. We all know he's a player that is at times a scapegoat. We all know a lot is made of his contract, so we all know this is fuel to the fire of sorts, people. And again, we don't know if this is true. Maybe Ozil's agreed to cut. Listen, these leaks don't come out of nowhere, and if anyone in the club gave the leaks, then there's problems. I think personally, not just Ozil, but I'd like to see the other two players, whoever they are, probably won't, but their identities to remain anonymous, because this isn't really for fans to know. And again, this is where it goes beyond things. And then you've got Piers Morgan getting at Ozil on GMTV. Now, depending on, every day people hate and love Piers Morgan. If he says what you like, you love him, sort of thing. Do you get it? Personally, I feel Piers Morgan's purpose personally is self-serving. He serves nobody but himself. He just says things because of what he gets. To be fair, I don't think his intentions in general are ever pure. This is a man that's done certain things with people's phones, but in relation to politicians, he's done a good job of stepping on their necks. But in relation to Ozil, I do think you've got to look at this with all things, and I don't want this to turn into a witch hunt. I don't want people to look at, obviously, his wages are because again, from a football point of view, Ozil is not doing the business to be one of the highest earners at this club, but he didn't give that contract to himself, and it shouldn't be a stick to beat him with, especially with this global epidemic. We all know some people do. Again, billionaires and millionaires and people that are in better positions should help, but we do know there is a bitterness and resentfulness to some better people that are earning a bit more in society, and Ozil is one of them. And I don't want this to turn into a witch hunt for him, and again, provide more fuel to the fire for people. People don't want to listen. All they're going to do is say Mesut Ozil refuses to take pay cuts and his players do, and think he's a big-time Charlie and a prima donna. I can guarantee you, by the time I upload this vid and you just look at the comments, there are going to be some people like that. I can't tell you what to think. I'm not telling you what to think. All I know is that this is a man who, in my opinion, would do it if it made sense. And again, he paid for 23 children in Brazil to have surgery, which was around £240,000. So he donated his things. Obviously, you know what him and his fiancée do. And again, Mesut Ozil, if you had to guess, was always going to be one that might not necessarily take it because of you heard his agent speak. And again, his agent said, this is previous comments, deferral is an option, but not to agree a cut today when clubs may still make a profit, same profit as last year. So again, from a business proposition, again, Ozil's Ozil is a client of clearly his agent, and he's acting in the best interest of his clients. Because if the clubs make the same profit, but they've already cut players' wages and whatever, then the club's going to be more in the green and a better balance, which is good for the club. Isn't necessarily fair on the players. So again, if they want to understand the whole situation without making a move, they're fully within their rights, regardless of what headlines may say. People, he said, it's not enough for a club to present a proposal to one member of the squad and then ask them to go to the rest of the squad and they get their consent to do it. That is not how individual contract negotiations should take place. So again, from a moral point of view, everybody's got to take cuts. From a business point of view, you have to be a degree of selfish. You taking 12.5% might be cool for you, but it might be worse for me. So if we can come to an agreement or a package, then that's fine. And again, it was all in hindsight when his agent was coming out like this. Is it really a surprise, people? A surprise. It went on to say, a club may even ask a first-team manager to negotiate with players, and this may influence some, particularly young players or those on the fringe who fear there might be personal repercussions for him if he does not agree. Now again, Arteta was a player and was a player very recently, and from what you've heard, Arteta isn't, again, you never know, but Arteta isn't playing that he respects everybody's decision, and I like to think everybody in the club will, but it's human nature, there is some sort of resentment, and that is true. There might be some members of that Arsenal side on the fringes or young that were kind of fearful for their places or how they might be perceived at the club or how their futures might be impacted if they didn't agree. There is a degree of being pressured into this by some. This is why I said I believe players should all have their agents or lawyers or advisors, because if they want to go for it, go for it. If they don't. But don't be bullied, don't be pushed, don't be pressured, don't let people utilize your emotions and play on your heartstrings to not allow you to make an informed decision within your rights, people. Because from a moral point of view, again, there's nothing wrong with cutting wages or deferring wages. I don't think anyone has an issue. But again, you've got a billionaire owner. It shouldn't be on the employees to save employees. It shouldn't be on the players. It shouldn't be on the executive staff. And again, as much as I want the health of Arsenal, and I don't think we're using this for ulterior motives, we need to address our wage budget or our wages as a club. And I do think, sadly, this epidemic's presented an Arsenal an option to, under the guise of we need to take cuts because of this, to push an agenda through by the club themselves. That's what I believe, because common sense would tell you look at the highest earners of this club and the mismanagement of wages, you can use this to try and balance that and try and offset future impacts. That's just my opinion, people. Moving forward, he said, in those circumstances, it can be questionable that any consent from players would be legally blinding anyway, as some players are not in a position to give true consent if they are under pressure to do so. So it is what it is. Apparently, people, individual talks are set to continue with Ozil, who is obviously the club's highest earner on $350 a week, who has made it clear he may be willing to take a pay cut in the future, but he wants to be sure of the full impact of the coronavirus before making an informed decision. Ozil is understood to be more accepting of a deferral worth more than 12.5%. The 12.5% his teammates have taken. So again, people have clearly doubled and copied and pasted. But like I said, he's also a businessman, so he needs to think about the true impact. And again, from a business proposition, someone that's got things, he's probably looking at that in such. And again, we need to remember it isn't just Mesut Ozil, which quickly is going to be forgotten. I'm not saying anyone should be scapegoating, but there's 2 other players, 3 in total. We don't know who. Again, how would people perceive it if it was Aubameyang, a player that we've all got a lot of time for? Again, let's cut the crap. I think the majority of you that watch me, you can have what I've said at the start, and the majority of my subscribers, because you lot are sensible, you can have your opinions. Like I said, if you think Ozil is in the wrong, if you think he's in the right, that's cool. But there's many people that are not simply going to care. Like, they're not going to hear Ozil's point of view. They're just going to see money grabber. I don't like Mesut Ozil. He's not my cup of tea on a football field. Get this guy out of the club. And that is sadly it's human nature, people. And like I said, what's quickly forgotten is there's 2 other people, 3 in total. I don't think anybody should have been leaked. But again, has a personal source to the club leaked this? Has a journalist leveraged his contacts, his good relations to get this? These things, 90% of them are nonsense. But again, there's no smoke without fire. And we don't know the other 2. We don't know the other 2. But say it's young Bukayo Saka. Say it's Aubameyang. You get it? Say it's Lacazette. Say it's Pepe. Do you get it? Say it's Luiz. who we don't know. Say it's Hector Bellerin. Say, you know, we hear Bellerin's PFA owner and think PFA advisor, and, you know, Bellerin's big on the rights. What is it then? Another one who probably would be scapegoated, to be fair with you. We don't know. We don't know. We can speculate and say, you know, it's probably the Ozils, the Luizes, maybe Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang and these players who are on, you know, that side of 30 and they need to think about what they're doing. We could say it's these young players. We could say it's this, that and the other. Truth is, we don't know. And again, what's quickly been forgotten, again, I'm not saying anyone should be scapegoated, but it's going to be like, people are going to see this now as it's the squad versus Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil's decided to do this versus that. We'll never know. Again, I actually didn't want to make this video, people, because again, it's you can see Mesut Ozil deferral, wage cuts. You can see how antagonising it is. But I had to, people, and I'm not going to waste any more time on such people. I've offered my opinion. There's really nothing more to say on that note, people, apart from apologies. If you give me a second, the official statement, people, from the club, which I might as well mention. An Arsenal statement read: "We are pleased to announce that we have reached a voluntary agreement with our first team players, head coach, and core coaching staff, to help support the club at this critical time. The move follows positive and constructive discussions. In these conversations, there's been a clear appreciation of the gravity of the current situation caused by COVID-19 pandemic and a strong desire for the players and staff to show their backing for the Arsenal family." Again, the owner can show that he's the boss of the Arsenal family and just make this not an issue. Reductions of total earnings by 12.5% will come into effect this month, with contractual paperwork being completed in the coming days. So again, people will sit down and sign to this in the coming days, and I's and T's will be dotted and crossed respectively. If we meet specific targets in the season ahead, primarily linked to success on the field, the club will repay agreed amounts. So again, people, you can see how you can see we're not in the Champions League. So potentially with incoming transfers, it's more incentive based, more target sort of base. You can see the club are using this to implement these sort of things, people. Again, the statement is there, really. Like, again, if you do your business on the field, you still get your thoughts, you still get your stuff. Now, from a club perspective or fans, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you'd think players are more enticed to show consistency and all of these things, but who knows? Yeah, man. We will be able to make those repayments, as hitting these targets, which the players can directly influence, will mean our financial position will be stronger. The agreement is based on the assumption we finished the season of 2019-20 and received the full broadcasting revenues. The resulting savings will help cover some of the financial risks we have this season in relation to our match day and commercial income. Now, again, people, if it was me personally, even if I agree to take the pay cut or the wage cut, whatever you want to call it, I want my money regardless. If I have bonus or target-based things I have to hit in my contract, that's cool. But I don't want, you can't be affecting my money because we're not going to get Champions League. The club has got themselves in that perspective. Again, from a moral point of view, yeah, you hit your targets, you get your money. But for me, I still want I'm going to keep it trill. I'll give my money to charity and people that need it. But I read that statement, and the key thing was me, if we hit specific targets, ifs and buts in life are very grey, people, grey areas. If you hit it, cool, everyone gets their bread. But if you don't, you're missing out. So you've already kind of signed up to a new you have, but indirectly you signed up to a new contract, people. And for the club, it's good if they, under the doormat, slip all of these things in, and especially with new incoming signings. We'll have to see. But me personally, I want all my bread regardless, again, because what if we hit some targets but we don't hit some, and this 12.5% is still valid? My paycheck, and I'm sure you've all been at work sometimes, you think you're getting a certain sort of paycheck and it comes a bit funny. You need to go HR and say, are you sure this is my thing? Them. And then more time, there might have been a mistake. No, there wasn't. And you're like, bro. So again, footballers are the same, people. For what it's worth as well, the Independents say Arsenal's annual wage bill is in the region of 230 mil. But although that will now be significantly reduced, there are still fears that the club will need a significant cash injection from Stan Kroenke in order to avoid a major financial issue in coming years. And again, we're playing with fire. Our cash reserves are decent, but you look at how we're managing the club's health, we're in issues, specifically relating to on the field. And again, this is the result of management, executives, the ethos coming from the manager, this is years. We're in this position from years. I'm not talking about the COVID, but we're here from years of mismanagement in all aspects, years of being mediocre, years of failing. What we've done off the field has a direct consequence on the field. How we've behaved on the field has a direct effect on off the field. We're not in the Champions League, so there's no money coming in. So that obviously affects how we bring in players. That affects our revenue. Look how, again, I don't have the specifics, but I made a video on it. Check it out. Look how much money Inter Milan got for just going out of the Champions League compared to how much we got for going to the final. We're nowhere near going to the final. We went out prematurely this season, so I'll be surprised if we get 2 million. Again, it's probably more than that, but you get the point. It's not that much. So we're going through serious issues, but listen, it is what it is. I didn't really want to speak on this, but I've spoken it now, so I'm really just gonna get out of here. On that note, nothing more to add. People, Deluded. I'm out. Comment, subscribe, like the vid, do the rest, but most importantly, stay safe. Check out my other vids because I guarantee there's a bunch of them. It's not just this one that's come out. But on that note, DG.